Thank you for joining me, and congratulations on You Can't Run Forever.
Thank you. And I agree with your art.
Oh, well,
Absolutely. We have John Lennon on ours. He says that when I was a kid, the teacher asked me, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I said, happy. And she said, you don't understand the question. She said, you don't understand life. You know, I agree
that,
with that. Always
that's
be thankful,
yeah, that's even better. I'm gonna have to get that one too.
right?
Yeah, that's great. Well, I spoke to your husband earlier. I was really looking forward to this interview and learning even more about this new movie of yours. I loved it. I was telling
Great.
JK I was, chewing away at my fingernails, kind of
Oh, good.
literally stressed out the whole time, but that's sort of the point.
Oh, good, good. Oh, thank God. It means it worked. Thank
Yeah,
God.
yeah. And I was curious, in addition to directing, of course, you co-wrote it. I was curious if you had JK sort of in mind from the get-go as this unique sort of character.
Wow, really? No, not at all. I didn't even no, yeah, I did.
Well, I don't know,
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, when you have that, when you have J.K. Simmons as your, muse and your husband and your, and I get him for cheap. I don't have to pay as, usual. um, yes, because I know the depth, and I know, and everybody does actually. They saw him in Oz and as Fletcher, and they know how he can be. But also he understands the layers and things, and that's we feel, Carolyn Carpenter, my co-writer, myself, and Randle, the producer, my brother, that it's a layered thriller, which was something that we tried to accomplish. And that yes, it's a cat and mouse, but there's layers to it, and he's damaged and she's damaged even before the movie begins. So yeah, he's nice to work with, that man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan of his for years. My family is, and so yeah, yeah, he was wonderful, and I was curious, you go home with him at the end of each shoot day. I was curious, as a director, are you able to sort of be removed from it, or seeing him as Wade in these sort of terrifying sequences, does it ever spook you where you're like in the moment watching through the viewfinder and I don't know if
Yeah.
it happened.
No, because I wrote this. Carolyn and I wrote this. So you've already done so much work, ahead of time, first draft, second draft. You've already done so much pre-production. It's like, you lose perspective. I mean, you're a producer, so you know what that's like when you've got your hands on something for so long that you actually have to pull back. No, that happened when he did Oz. When he would come home from work after, and I'd see them and I'd be like, I stopped watching Oz actually because I couldn't separate the two. But on this one, no, yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And as I read your director's statement, talking about how ultimately this is a movie about family, which I totally agree
yeah,
with. You're rooting for these women. I love seeing, no spoilers, but love seeing certain characters fight back and all that. And
yeah,
um,
yes.
and then, behind the scenes, it's a family production, not just JK behind the scenes. There are other, sort of immediate family members involved. So did that, going into the production, with real life family helping you out, I mean, did that sort of influence, I don't know, the end result in any way, or the vision of the movie, or anything
Yeah.
like that?
Well, I mean, that's my favorite thing to do is collaborate with my family, my friends. Like I said, my brother produced it. He was the only producer on it. Like we did not have any other producers. And I know you get what that means. It's insane. That's unheard of. Yeah, working with him. And then, um, one of the reasons I write and do film is to work with my family, because I just feel like, life is short, right? Like do as much of what you love as possible, and that's what I love collaborating with people, who I love and respect and who I know are good, and not just my family but friends, Carolyn, DP, Pete Filani, and among others. But and then making new family. But yeah, that's actually why I do it, is to work with, collaborate. or I mean, filmmaking is the most collaborative art form there is. So I just love that.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
And when you're directing JK, do you ever find do you use your like sort of personal knowledge of him like in the moment directing, or do you try to push all that aside and
No, I use it to my advantage.
yeah, yeah,
No, yeah.
yeah,
It is weird how I can separate, the personal and professional, but then when I need to completely use it and bridge it, if that makes any sense at all. Um, I see him on set as J.K. Simmons, the actor, but as his wife, the director, I know that I can, you know, when I'll give a slight adjustment, here or there or something, I can relate it to something from our lives, and he immediately gets what I'm. So the communication is so good and simple and thorough,
yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. and and this is following up after I'm Not Here movie where I'm pretty sure he didn't speak a single
Not a word.
word.
Even
uh,
the voice message with Sebastian Stan,
right,
I'm not,
right, right.
yeah,
So, and his performance in that was wonderful. And
yeah,
after completing that project, ultimately doing You Can't Run Forever, in between, were you sort of like thinking about your next role for him, kind of thinking, oh, I want it to be wildly different, or I don't know, just did that
yeah,
experience sort of influence where you wanted to
yeah.
in terms of
No,
collaboration?
I can't. Actually, the inspiration for this one was COVID, really,
Oh, yeah.
and the lockdown and how it just created really a mental illness in our society, and how difficult that was, and that the younger generation, there's such anxiety and thoughts of suicide, and there's just so much stress, right?
Yeah.
That I kind of wanted to explore that in a way that people could first relate to, but then like give them, instead of it just be about that, be about overcoming that, right? Like give them well, not tools really, because it's a film. Although I think film is such a healing, can be so healing. It can be entertaining. It can be, um, but yeah, no, I wanted to kind of explore that, and then the Wade character just was a great vehicle for that, and I knew he could do that well, you
Oh,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He certainly did.
Yeah, he's good at that.
Hey, you mentioned Fletcher earlier, and I even mentioned it to him when we spoke earlier,
Yeah.
especially when he's just like only in the t-shirt, strutting around
Right.
in this movie, and of course, different circumstances, but you
Yeah.
can't help but catch shades of that, but in a good
Right.
way, of course.
Right. And a very scary,
Yeah. Yeah.
intense man kind of a way.
Yeah, yeah, but he nailed it. And you know, I find myself I asked him this question as well, so I apologize. But I thought it was very interesting. No spoilers when the movie sort of takes a not exactly a spoiler, but it sort of takes a peek into his Wade's life a little bit,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
some point, which I thought was great. And I asked him about that, and I was wondering, was that the plan all along?
Yeah.
For you as co-writer, he sort of commented on it, but as
Yeah.
co-writer, going back to the beginning, were you like, oh, we got to do this, or maybe it was sort of a last minute thing, or
Yeah. No, we weren't. We weren't going to originally because I thought it was really scary. Somebody doing something, and it's just cause, because I always want to. I'm a big watcher of like true crime and things like that because
yeah, me
I'm so
too.
interested in the I'm so interested in the extremes of like the human mind and the human condition, and like the worst we can be and the absolutely best we can be. Great, and so I do, I find all that really, really interesting. But I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. The question was, about whether his backstory or not. So we
Oh yeah,
weren't going
sorry,
to.
I rambled. I
No,
apologize.
no, no. I go down these tangents and then I completely have to crawl my way back out of my rabbit hole. But we weren't going to, because I thought that was terrifying, that people just do stuff and
Yeah,
you don't get answers. A lot of the times you do not know why somebody did something.
yeah,
And so we thought, excuse me, that was terrifying. But then we thought, we need to show that he's damaged too. We need to show that, not to like give him any kind of redemptive anything. It was zero to do with that. It had more just to do with, here's a damaged human being, and Miranda's a damaged human being, and they go into this isolated, it's an expansive woods, but they're isolated, right? Like COVID, we were all isolated.
Yep.
And then who comes out of it the stronger? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's what we found interesting, is even though it appears that the Wade character is the stronger, is the tougher, is the badass who carries a gun, he isn't. Who came out of that woods stronger?
Exactly.
Or does she come out of the woods? Bum, bum, bum. I don't want to give any spoilers away,
Okay.
but who's stronger?
Yeah.
And that, I find that interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like you have other scripts in the works with your co-writers.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
one in particular you're really zoned in on these days, looking ahead?
I haven't yet, and I don't know why I haven't yet. And until I get that, I won't move ahead. But I've written one with Tony Cummings, who I did. I'm not here with. We wrote something, and I have two other stuff that I'm halfway through with Carolyn. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like to do things. I'm fortunate that I can make what I want to make and what I'm feeling, and expressing, or what I want to tap into, or what I'm, I want to contribute, even though it's a thriller, and yes, there's a lot of carnage, but none of it's gratuitous or bloody or anything like that. And I actually do feel like it's contributing to the health of people. I feel like it's a positive. So yeah, no, until I have scripts, but I'm just not, I'll feel it when I feel it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Is there like, do you ever joke around with JK, or maybe it's a serious conversation where there's like a specific type of character where like you feel like he hasn't played, and you're like, oh, maybe in one of my future movies or in one of these scripts I'm working on, wouldn't it be great to see you playing this character, because I don't
Yeah.
think you've done it yet, or something.
I've asked him that. I'm like, what haven't you played that you want to play?
Yeah.
And he's like, he never has an answer. He goes, yeah, I don't know. And then I was thinking, what character would challenge him? I mean, and I'm not here. He didn't say a word, literally. And that was such a fun exploration, right? But and then this one, so yeah, I do think about that. And I haven't come up. If you come up with something, let me know, because I do think that that's fun.
Okay.
Like, what would be a great character? And then, is there a story there? If there isn't, I don't write it. But I do think that that's an interesting. I like that. So please call me if you come up with something.
Yes. Yes, I will definitely reach out. The wheels
Yeah.
are in motion.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. I'm looking for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Is there you worked with Sebastian Stan and I'm Not Here. You've worked with some other wonderful actors. Is there someone you've also had your eye on who you haven't worked with, who you're
Yeah.
really impressed with these days? I mean, I'm sure the list goes on, but anyone in particular
Yeah, that was crazy actors, and I'm Not Here. That was an amazing experience too.
yeah.
Um, as a director, I would love to work with another director. I would love to either shadow like Sam Raimi
Oh, yeah.
or Yorgos Lanthimos, to be
Oh,
honest.
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of great actors, but what was coming to mind before, when you were asking that was, I would love to just like shadow them on one of their sets. But there are a ton of great actors out there. Emma Stone would be fantastic to work with. I think she's amazing. Jennifer Lawrence, actually, I think is a really good actress. They're yeah, there's a ton, but I'd love to work with Yorgos Lanthimos
Oh,
or
yeah.
like Sam
He's
Raimi.
yeah, he's one of my favorites. Ever since Dogtooth.
His brain, right? Like, how does he come up with that? And then Sam, such a like a genius storyteller. They're
Yeah.
both like just amazing, I think.
Yeah. As are you. I mean, I loved I'm Not Here, and I can't wait for everyone else. I realize, I'm asking about your future projects. I realize You Can't Run Forever hasn't
Yeah,
even officially come out yet.
hasn't come out. Yeah, next week, May
Yeah.
17th.
One thing at a time, of course.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with
Thank
me,
you.
and congratulations again. And I hope we can do this on the next one.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much. Thank you.